Welcome back to another season of The Bachelorette. This season will follow the love life of Hedwig, niece of the late Casimir the Great. Will she find the sir, she already chose a husband. What? She can't do that. It's literally the first episode. We need a whole season. I don't know. She chose the Lithuanian guy. Really? Oh, that was a rash decision. He's like basically pagan. Of course it was a rash decision, Stan. She's like 10 years old. I've told you this at least 148 separate times, Larry. I don't choose the contestants. There's a special algorithm. Hello and welcome back to another wedding dress review video. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more of my little characters inaccurately portray historical events. Now, on to the video. After Casimir died in 1370, leaving his sister basically in charge, she married this guy from Hungary, but he turned out to be a twerp and only visited Poland like once. The Polish nobles weren't super thrilled with this situation, so they got her 10-year-old daughter, Hedwig, to marry Yagola, the Grand Duke of Lithuania. The only problem is that Hedwig was already engaged to the Prince of the Holy Roman Empire, but that wasn't a problem because they just locked her in a tower and refused to let her out until the prince left. I'm sadly not even making that up. Yagola was then welcomed as the new king of Poland and was baptized as Władysław Jagiello, making him both the king of Poland and the Grand Duke of Lithuania. Now this situation is a little weird because although Poland and Lithuania had the same king, they were still actually two separate countries. They had their own currencies, their own laws, drove on different sides of the road, and had differing opinions on the legal status of medical marijuana. Imagine it like this. A single guy decides to adopt two children. One is from South Korea and one is from Nope. Terrible idea. One is from India and one is from Pakistan. Please don't hate me. Okay, one is from Andorra and the other is from Monaco. Hopefully we can all agree on that one. Anyway, the single guy is now the father of both of them, but they both are still separate children with their own toys and stuffed animal preferences. Things that most countries disagree on as well. Even though the countries weren't technically united, the dynastic union proved useful almost immediately when the combined armies of Poland and Lithuania smashed the Teutonic Order at the Battle of Grunwald in 1410. The Teutonic Knights had been annoying the Poles and Lithuanians for some time now, but in the years after the battle they were essentially reduced to a client state. In the years that followed, the Jagiellon dynasty that Hedwig and Władysław formed actually did really well and ended up controlling most of Central and Eastern Europe for a while. In 1569, during the reign of King Sigismund II, the Union of Lublin was signed, which united the two nations into a real union, or Commonwealth. And then the last Jagiellon king died without an heir. Typical. But unlike most kings without heirs, Sigismund II didn't just wait around to die. No. When he was like 50, he was like, "Oh no, I have no children." And then he was like, "But what if there was a way that a guy like me could not have kids and also not cause a cataclysmic civil war that would rip apart the very foundation of the nation that I love so dearly?" So when Sigismund died, the Commonwealth became an elective monarchy, which meant that every time the king died, the Poles would just elect a new one. Now the way this was done was kinda interesting. The Poles who voted were called the Szlachta, and were made up of people from many different social statuses. One theory behind this is that the title of Szlachta had been given out to Polish families hundreds of years before, and many of those families were now not really considered wealthy. Because of this, the Szlachta represented about 10% of the Polish population and came from a variety of socio-economic backgrounds. For comparison, it is estimated that when the US was formed over 200 years later, only about 20% of the population could vote, so the Commonwealth actually wasn't that far behind. Another way in which the Commonwealth was ahead of its time was religious tolerance. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like everyone had yard signs supporting their religiously different neighbor. It was more like, "Hey, I'm Jewish. Can I live here and not get killed?" I mean, I guess. Wow! Neato! During this time, when Jews especially were being kicked out of their homes in other countries, Poland was fine just to kind of let them hang out, and in return, they provided a skilled class of bankers and merchants that was invaluable to the Polish economy. Everything was going pretty well for Poland and Lithuania up until the mid-1600s, when Sweden teamed up with Russia and completely ransacked the country before finally being defeated when the Poles assassinated the CEO of IKEA, shattering Swedish morale beyond repair. This era is called the deluge in Poland and was the most costly and destructive time in Polish history up until World War II, which made it look like a schoolyard scuffle. After this, the Commonwealth had one final hurrah when they defeated the Ottomans at the gates of Vienna in 1683, completely saving Western Europe, by the way. After the battle, though, the Commonwealth spiraled into a continuous decline, which was really a bummer for everyone living in Poland, but you win some, you lose some, am I right? Additionally, the very system of government that had once saved the Commonwealth was now starting to become its downfall. Since kings were elected in Poland, it was relatively easy for neighbors to shove their meddling, greasy little hands in Polish affairs. It got so bad that by the mid-1700s there were Russian troops present inside every meeting of the Polish Senate, proving that even back then Russia just couldn't keep its hands to itself. Now at this point, Poland was like, alright guys, this whole political manipulation deal doesn't really butter my egg roll, so I'm gonna have to ask you goons to go back home. Oh boy. What followed was called the Partitions of Poland, which was basically just a fancy European term for Poland. It's free real estate. The government of Poland was so compromised by now that Prussia, Austria, and Russia literally just took over a third of the country and no one even tried to stop them. The first time this happened, the Poles were like, but by the second partition, they were at a full-blown so they revolted. And then were invaded by three sides and wiped off the face of the earth for 123 years. But well, that's all we have time for today.